MMA is so 2000 and late. It's the 2020s now, which means it's time to freshen things up a bit. Several promotions have tried to revamp the world of person-v-person combat over the years, and now thanks to the magic of the internet, the fruits of their efforts are easier to access than ever. And those efforts might have you saying, combat sports have gotten a little wacky, haven't they? Technically, if we're being nerds about this, MMA is a wacky sport to begin with. In the early days, it would put people who specialize in specific disciplines against one another to see which sport would come out on top. Capoeira dudes would face off against karate guys, Muay Thai fighters would face off against wrestlers, and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu dudes would face off against everyone. Right from the start, Royce Gracie wanted to show the world that Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu was the pinnacle of martial arts, and for the most part, he was right. Dude was putting people to sleep all over the place. To make these fights as fair as possible, rules were kept to a minimum, making these fights incredibly brutal, and it took quite a while for this sport to become as popular as it is now. But it also made it feel more unpredictable, because not everyone just did Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu with a little Muay Thai sprinkled in. This feels like a new sport, and it is. But in the late BCEs, in the 600s, there was a sport called pankration, which was shockingly close to MMA. Except that had fewer rules and was even more brutal. People not very deep in the world of MMA might associate the sport as being exclusively contested in an octagonal cage, except that is very UFC specific. Most promotions around the world just compete in a regular boxing ring, such as Pride and Affliction MMA. Yes, that Affliction. Which means this is a sport that can probably be improved upon just by changing the location, which is what the brilliant minds behind phone booth boxing did.
Призеры начинается месиво какое-то. Кулачная работа мощная. Молчанов Павел немножко уходит вниз.
Why this location, you might be asking? Well, like boxing in a phone booth is a fairly popular expression that has existed for a while, so why not get two dudes who love punching, a British phone booth, and let them go at it? I mean, I feel like the results speak for themselves here. These fights do not last very long, since things like evasion or dodging strikes or even defense aren't really in play here. This was created by a Russian promotion called Punch Club, and real quick, I've linked to as many of these promotions as I could down in the description. Many of them have entire matches or even cards up here on YouTube that you can watch anytime. So if you're interested, go check them out. Anyways, Punch Club is a promotion that specializes in all kinds of gimmicky bouts, such as having matches on top of shipping containers or having their combatants compete in full suits. Over the last couple of years, they do seem to have narrowed it down to just a couple of main gimmicks, with one of them being CarJitsu, which just like phone booth boxing, is jiu-jitsu, but in a car.
Brian getting that all-important top position, going for that guillotine again. He's tight.
He's coming in deep here. He's kind of step over into mount.
These bouts do last longer than phone booth boxing, and you're allowed to use every part of the car, basically making the vehicle a gi made by Honda. The most intense parts are when someone's going for a chokehold and you use a seatbelt for an assist, something that's incredibly brutal, but also incredibly within the rules. Outside of being inside a car though, this is basically just jiu-jitsu. All the same rules apply, you're trying to make your opponent tap out, you just got a little more in the way. These last two sports are both modified components of things that you would see in most MMA matches. Something you don't see very often are any medieval techniques. Then again, I suppose to do that, you have to wrap both of your combatants up in armor and then have them go at it with weapons. Who would do such a thing?
He does not look his age at all.
Not at all.
Got some great hair, which he cut, by the way.
It looks very clean.
It does look good, yep.
I am so happy this exists. This is the most insane escalation of the sport. Way better than slap fighting.
Devastating shot by Dumpling, scooped up by the Lion.
But if we're being honest though, I don't know if this counts as MMA. It feels like a very singular MA at play here. Not a lot of Emming going on. Sure, they punch and kick, I'll give them that, but I don't think anyone's too worried about getting around a particularly tricky guard. Like, take a look at this axe bout, where they're going at each other with axes. If someone tries applying a guard, you're probably just gonna hit them with an axe. Not to mention, they're doing all of this relatively safely. What a time to be alive.
Does it still hurt? Heck yeah, as you can see from this.
And with the illegal strike, that's a 5 points, I think, to leave off.
That said, People do get injured in this sport, just like with every combat sport. And you'll see blood on occasion, but most of the time that blood's coming out of some kind of face hole, which is very common in the UFC. Honestly, in the UFC, it gets even worse because you see people's faces just swelling all the way up. And blood coming out of those holes. Anyways, let's watch another clip before moving on. AMMA is relatively new, but the idea of smashing two sports together to create a third sport, not so much. In Germany, there's a long-running pay-per-view tradition of a sport called chess boxing. And I'll go ahead and let you figure out which two sports were combined to come up with that. Leave your guesses in the comments. The way this sport works is that it's 1 round of boxing followed by 1 round, 2 minutes of chess. You can win either by knockout or by checkmate. Personally, I would have set this up so both things were happening concurrently. Just have the chessboard set up in the middle of the ring and then both boxers just fighting delicately around it as to not knock it over. Although, I suppose if you set it up that way, there would probably be less chess being played, or the chess portion of the match would come to an abrupt end. The official method does allow for some fun bouts featuring opponents who might either be really good at boxing or really good at chess, with the latter being just a little bit funnier. This right here, according to the video title, features the highest ELO rated chess players to ever compete in chess boxing. For those of you who might be unfamiliar, ELO is the main ranking system in the sport of chess, named after its founder, Alfred Elo. The highest anyone has ever achieved was Magnus Carlsen with a score of 2,882, all the way back in 2014. A couple of very fun facts that might come in handy at any trivia boxing event you might find yourself in. Something that doesn't really exist, but if there's any ambitious pub trivia hosts out there who want to spice up their next event and take this brilliant $1 million idea out for a spin, have at it. You have my blessing. Speaking of boxing, ever wonder what it would look like if professional fighters competed in a pillow fight? No, I'm not talking about 2000s WWE. Instead, I'm talking about PFC, the Pillow Fighting Championship.
What I'm liking from Turbo is he's cutting off Simon from jumping around like that.
A headshot. What a leap. To the
Very
window.
exciting.
To the moon.
These combatants aren't just using any pillow to hit each other with. No. They're using specially designed combat pillows. They got straps for maximal grip, they're made out of sail fabric, they even have a waterproof polymer on one side. Which means if you get hit in the face with one of these, it's probably going to leave a face mark on the pillow. And probably a pillow mark on your face. The main rules are, you can only strike your opponent with the pillow, and that strike has to be done one-handed, no two-handed pillow pounces allowed. No grabbing of the opponent's pillow, and don't drop your own pillow. The athleticism in this sport, which, let's be honest, does sound kind of silly, is insane. The athleticism in all the sports I've talked about here is insane. You're taking people who have trained their entire lives in a single discipline, having them do that, and then adding another layer to that. Just mad respect for all these athletes. But that also touches on a common theme for all these sports. You're adding something to them. What if you were to just dial it back, strip it down to basics? No armor, no phone booth, no doing another sport in between rounds. I'm talking simple. Just two Brits with their pants full of straw, kicking each other in the shins. Simple. This right here is a sport of shin kicking, explained by Wikipedia as being described as a type of martial art, which feels like quite the backhanded compliment. They're not saying it is a martial art, just described as one. The beauty of the sport is, you know exactly what you're getting yourself into from the name. Kinda makes you wonder why boxing isn't just called face punching. Naturally, I did look this up, and it turns out that boxing just means hitting. So the actual name of the sport is even more basic than face punching. Another fun fact that might come in handy if you ever find yourself in one of those trivia boxing events. This idea is out there for anyone who wants it. Craig, I know you like doing different things. Now I've talked about quite a few sports here, and quite frankly, I'm feeling inspired. After all, what am I adding to the world by just discussing all these interesting sports? Another commentary video with a thumbnail of a person going, huh? In a sea of YouTube commentary videos with a thumbnail of a person going, huh? No, that just won't do. I need to create my own sport. Something even more vicious. Fighting in an octagon is pretty dangerous, but it's only dangerous for people who are trained in the sport and in a match. It's not gonna, I don't know, break the spine of a neighborhood kid who got too hopped up on Capri Suns and tried to do a backflip despite never attempting a backflip in their entire lives. That's where trampolines come in. The second most dangerous piece of summer leisure equipment ever created. Now I just gotta find myself a trampoline. Oh, there's one. Okay, well that's sorted. Now I just need someone to fight.
Did somebody say trampoline-based combat sport?
Looks like those pieces fell into place pretty easily. Now all that's left to do is go out there and make history. Welcome, sports fans, to the first ever bout of the Trampoline Noodle Duel, taking place on the Trampoline of Doom. Brought to us today by the Charles Xavier School of Etiquette, and that's Xavier, spelled with a Z. Our competitors are warming up, and while they do that, let's quickly go over the rules. You must remain on the trampoline at all times. If a competitor is knocked out, that is the end of that round. All hits must be done with the pool noodle, and points will be determined by the number of times the noodle connects with your opponent. Our combatants are locked in, undoubtedly aware that the future of this entire sport is reliant on their performance here today. The pressure must be weighing heavy on their shoulders, but they must brush that off and focus on the man across from them in this very moment. I always knew that one day it would come to this.
It was inevitable, wasn't it?
I guess it was. Didn't anticipate the venue, however. The Trampoline of Doom, brought to us by the Charles Xavier School of Etiquette.
Perhaps, if we attended a few classes, this could have all been avoided.
Doubtful. Once the bell rings, I'll try not to hurt you too bad, but you know how these things can get a bit out of hand.
That won't be an issue. I'll have this wrapped up before you can throw your first strike.
Such confidence! A fool's sensibility! Seems like our two fighters share quite the lore here today. With all that smack talk out of the way, it's time to ring the bell and start this duel.
3, 2, 1, fight.
His strikes are quick, but there's no way he can keep this up for an entire round. When he fatigues, that's when I'll strike.
He's not even attempting to fight back. One hit is all it will take to attain victory.
Oh no! I'm losing ground. I can't fall. I must stay in. I can't win like this. Huh? How could I forget? This is a trampoline. I can use that to my advantage.
Jumping? That leaves his whole body exposed. He's going too high. When he does, I'll strike both his legs. 2 hits. Are you getting ready to give up?
Far from it. This is it. Time for my signature move. The high
Trench
dive.
Buster.
What an inaugural bout we had here today. There was defense, offense, things done with a pool noodle once thought to be impossible. Let's rewind the tape and rewatch some of those unimaginable moments. The scores are tallied and it's a draw! 2 strikes each. It appears that this feud is far from over. Thank you for joining us here on SNH4SD for our inaugural trampoline pool duel. And fun fact, the pool noodle has only been around since the 1980s and is Canadian. Independently created by 2 inventors, one of which called them water woggles. Fascinating facts that may come in handy one day, but in the meantime, I'm Sports Cunningham signing off, reminding you that anything can and should be a competition.